I returned with the Empress Dowager from 2 months of temple prayers, only to find my husband with a pregnant girl behind him. He said the girl was a distant cousin, whose husband had recently died. His mother had taken pity on her and brought her to the manor to look after her. I frowned, about to speak, when bullet comments suddenly flashed before my eyes. The original wife is such a fool. She'll give up her courtyard, her housekeeping rights, and her husband after just a few words from this scumbag. Little does she know this Xie Lingwen is the hero's former personal maid, his long-cherished white moonlight. Sigh. The hero and his mother laid the groundwork for this distant cousin's story in letters for so long. Of course the original wife wouldn't suspect. This story whitewashes the other woman. It's disgusting. If the original wife knew her ending, her entire family being brutally killed by this scumbag, she'd beat him and the slut to death on the spot. I looked up again. My husband shielded the girl tightly behind him and said righteously, "Lingwen is heavy with child and needs to rest. Your courtyard has good light. So I've already had her move in. She's been handling household affairs these past few months. From now on, she'll assist you. Besides, she's 2 months pregnant and sensitive. Don't provoke her for no reason." I raised an eyebrow and gestured to the Imperial guards behind me. In under a quarter of an hour, all Xie Lingwen's things had been thrown out. Amid my husband's angry shouts, I let out a light laugh. It wasn't me who got her pregnant. What do her sensitivity and fragility have to do with me? Perhaps you don't know, husband, the Empress Dowager has taken me as her adopted daughter, and His Majesty has personally conferred me as a princess. This princess's courtyard, I'm afraid she'd have the heart to take it, but not the life to enjoy it. Xie Lingwen stood behind Xiao Mingxia, coquettishly protesting, "I'm only pregnant, not ill. There's no need for you to go to such lengths, brother Mingxia." Xiao Mingxia's eyes were filled with indulgence. "Jin Zhao is understanding. She won't make things difficult for you." Just then, I saw black characters floating in the air. Unbelievable. Can the other woman just move in and raise her baby like this? Upstairs. This is the female lead of a maid-turned-lady story. Anyone who climbs up on her own is a strong female lead. Too bad the original wife, she's kept in the dark, and won't even know the truth when her family is destroyed. Xie Lingwen. As if changing her name would fool anyone. This is Chunju, Xiao Mingxia's former maid. Chunju, before the Empress Dowager arranged my marriage. She'd had Xiao Mingxia thoroughly investigated. When he was 13, his family had given him a personal maid, and her name was Chunju. According to the information I'd received back then, that maid had been sent away by the old mistress. How was she here now, pregnant with Xiao Mingxia's child? I stared hard at the black characters, my heart trembling. I didn't even hear Xiao Mingxia calling my name several times. He spoke impatiently. "Jin Zhao, what's wrong with you? Did you put on airs after going out with the Empress Dowager? You're nothing but an orphan. The Empress Dowager only shows you favor out of pity." Before he could finish, I snapped my head up and shot him a sharp glare. The unspoken words died in his throat. Xiao Mingxia subtly stepped in front of Xie Lingwen and ordered as if it were only natural, "Lingwen is heavy with child and needs to rest. Your courtyard has good light, so I've already had her move in. She's been handling household affairs these past few months. From now on, she'll assist you. Besides, she's 2 months pregnant and sensitive. Don't provoke her for no reason." After staring at those black characters for so long, I understood. This was the world of a book, and I was the original wife in it, deceived by her husband, her entire family brutally killed. I turned my head. Behind me stood the 200 Imperial guards the Empress Dowager had left me before she left. She'd said people's hearts were hidden, and I should let everyone know how much the Imperial family valued me. Now it seemed these guards were truly useful. I took a deep breath and called out sharply, "Men, throw out all the strangers' belongings from my courtyard. If anyone dares to stop you, execute them on the spot." The 200 guards obeyed at once. Rushing into the manor, The Yong'an Marquis mansion was already in decline. Its servants and guards dared not resist. Soon, harsh sounds came from inside. Both Xiao Mingxia and Xie Lingwen's faces paled. Xie Lingwen spoke first, clutching her belly and glaring at me. "Your only brother Mingxia's wife. What right do you have to override him?" Xiao Mingxia was also livid with anger. "Zhao Jinjiao, did I spoil you too much before, making you forget your place? Call them off at once. Put Lingwen's things back properly and apologize to her, lest people say the Marquis's main wife bullies her relatives and acts arrogantly." I looked at the two of them and suddenly laughed. "Perhaps you don't know, husband, the Empress Dowager has taken me as her adopted daughter, and His Majesty has personally conferred me as a princess. A princess's courtyard is mine to live in as I please. I'd leave it empty before giving it to someone else." Xiao Mingxia, "You may hold the title of Marquis, but you have no real power in court. Who gave you the nerve to give me orders?" Xiao Mingxia turned pale and stared at me in shock and doubt. "I was born into a general's family. When I was 10, my parents both died in battle, leaving no other relatives in the clan. That year, the emperor wanted to confer me as a princess to show his grace, but my father's political enemies interfered, falsely claiming my father had ignored all advice and acted arrogantly. I cried myself unconscious in the Empress Dowager's palace that year, and she took me in to raise. She treated me with extreme kindness and doted on me endlessly. After I came of age, she chose a husband for me in the capital. But as an orphan with no rank, it was hard for me to find a good match. After much consideration, the Empress Dowager chose Xiao Mingxia. His family was small, and his mother was already elderly. I would have no one to bully me after marrying in. He did have a personal maid. Though, I said to the Empress Dowager, "Marriage is not my choice alone. I wished to meet him first." She agreed, and Xiao Mingxia was summoned to the palace. He was good-looking, and I found him pleasant enough. When he saw me, Xiao Mingxia blushed slightly and dared not look at me. I stared at him and spoke seriously. "I hear you have a beloved personal maid. Is that true?" My thinking was simple. If his heart belonged to another, I wouldn't force it. There were plenty of fine young men in the capital. Worst case, I could even choose a husband at the imperial examinations, but Xiao Mingxia denied it outright. She was given to me by my elders. I couldn't refuse. Chunju is a bit willful, but she doesn't care for me. She wishes to leave the manor, and I've already agreed. He spoke sincerely, every word showing pity for the maid's hardship. I grew fond of him and talked with him for a long time. When we parted, Xiao Mingxia smiled lightly and gave me a golden hairpin. "Your father and brother died young, and you've had a hard time alone in the palace. The Yong'an Marquis mansion is quiet. No one will dare bully you here." I believed him, and I married him. In the end, the one who bullied me was him. If that's how it was, I owed him no decency. I sat in the main hall, Xiao Mingxia beside me, his expression dark. "How could you not tell me about something this important in advance? 2 months ago, the Empress Dowager had been in danger, and I'd taken a sword strike for her. She'd been so distressed that she insisted on rewarding me. She'd spoken to the emperor, but he'd worried about old court officials gossiping and wanted to brush it off. In a fit of anger, the Empress Dowager had taken me out of the capital to pray at temples for 2 full months, until the emperor finally relented. I'd planned to tell Xiao Mingxia the good news when I returned, with my status raised. He might even gain an official post in court. But now, my voice was cold. "You mean if I'd told you in advance, you wouldn't have let someone else move into my courtyard?" Xiao Mingxia choked, shame and anger flashing across his face. "That's not what I mean. Besides, Lingwen is no outsider. I was thoughtless earlier. Since you're a princess now, Lingwen naturally can't stay in your courtyard." He backed down, then changed the subject and called Xie Lingwen forward. "You haven't properly met Lingwen. She's very easy to get along with. You know I have few close relatives. Both mother and I value this bond deeply." Xie Lingwen curtsied politely. her belly prominent. I watched her movements and spoke in half surprise. Why does my cousin bow like a servant? Xie Lingwen stiffened. The bullet comments mocked. The hero kept the female lead outside all these years. She's lived like a wife, not a maid. How would she know noble etiquette? Yeah, she was a servant too long. She doesn't even know how a mistress bows. This original wife is sharp and smart. Xiao Mingxia quickly explained for her. Lingwen's husband just died. She's distraught and keeps making mistakes. Don't hold it against her. I waited for the right moment, set down my cup, and sighed. It doesn't matter here, we're family. But if outsiders found out, they'd laugh at our Marquis mansion for lacking etiquette. You're already not favored by His Majesty in court. If someone finds fault and impeaches you, wouldn't that backfire? Xie Lingwen's eyes turned red, but she wasn't the type to fake weakness. She was more like a firecracker. She'd been pretending long enough, and now she couldn't hold back, snapping angrily. What does sister-in-law mean? I'm only a little dazed sometimes. Are you trying to drive me out again? I almost forgot your General Zhao family is gone. No one taught you to be gentle and respectful. In an instant, I snapped my head up, killing intent clear in my eyes. A maid dared to slander my loyal Zhao family. I said coldly to Nanny Zhao, foul-mouthed, uneducated, and rude. These words should be thrown back at you. Beat her hard until she admits her mistake. It doesn't matter if she loses the child. If you're afraid, you can go to the palace and ask His Majesty to judge. Nanny Zhao was my personal head nurse, strong and once trained in martial arts, with a fiery temper. She'd been itching to move the moment she heard Xie Lingwen's words. Before Xiao Mingxia could react, she'd swung her arm hard. By the time he came to his senses, Nanny Zhao had already landed 4 or 5 slaps. Xiao Mingxia's eyes were bloodshot. Stop. Don't hurt the child in her belly. I didn't move, sipping my tea calmly. When Xie Lingwen began to bleed from below, Xiao Mingxia couldn't hold back any longer. He rushed to stop her, shielding Xie Lingwen on the ground with his body. Nanny Zhao didn't dare lay a hand on him and looked at me for instructions. Only then did I smile and say, "Come back, don't frighten my husband." Xiao Mingxia was so angry his face turned red. "Zhao Jinzhao, have you lost your mind? Beating her like that could kill someone. Do you understand? Lingwen is with child. How can you be so vicious?" I sneered. "Does my husband know that insulting loyal martyrs can also cost lives, since Xie Lingwen has lost her senses? How can she manage the household? Pass the word. The young cousin shall rest in the eastern courtyard and may not leave without permission." Xie Lingwen was locked in the eastern courtyard. The child in her belly had narrowly survived. My mother-in-law, who had been feigning illness, stormed to me upon hearing the news, her cane stabbing the ground as if to pierce a hole through it. "What is the meaning of this? Lingwen is my cousin's daughter. You nearly killed her baby. How can you be so cruel?" I sat calmly in my seat, not moving an inch. Even if mother cannot tell kin from stranger, how can you not understand rank and status? I am a princess, she is a commoner. She failed to greet me properly and even spoke against and defied a princess, let alone her child. If I told the Empress Dowager, she herself would die with it. My mother-in-law turned green with rage. "Jinzhao, you are far too willful. You were raised by the Empress Dowager. Every word and action represents the imperial family. How can you be so rude, using imperial dignity to pressure me? What a joke." The bullet comments exploded. "This mother-in-law is beyond biased. I'm fuming. After all, Chunju was the one she picked for the hero. She served the old lady for years and won her favor. Most importantly, the doctor said it's a boy in her belly. Xie Lingwen's child was meant to be raised in the Marquis mansion. After the original wife dies, they'll elevate her and the child die." At that word, the words I'd been about to say circled in my throat, and I suddenly softened my tone. "Mother is right. I was just too angry. Mingxia is my husband, and you are my mother-in-law. Yet for some reason, I feel you both care far more for Xie Lingwen than for me. You know I took a sword strike for the Empress Dowager, and my wounds haven't fully healed. When I came back, not one of you asked after me." My mother-in-law froze slightly. After marrying Xiao Mingsha, I had managed the household well, never troubling them with trivial matters. But one thing was certain: once I made up my mind, I would not back down. Even when Xiao Mingsha and mother argued with me until their faces turned red, I would only say calmly, "Running a household is difficult. If mother insists on this, then you may manage the household affairs." Though the Marquis mansion was of noble rank, it was past its prime. With few family members and only ancestral property to keep up appearances, it was not wealthy. She dared not give up the rich dowry the Empress Dowager had given me, so she always backed down. This was the first time I showed weakness. My mother-in-law hesitated for a long while and could not speak, but Xiao Mingsha walked in. He had been standing at the door, listening for who knew how long. As soon as he entered, he put an arm around my shoulders and apologized softly. "Jinjiao, it was my carelessness. You don't understand, Lingwen's pregnancy is unstable. That's why mother and I have been extra careful with her. Now that you're back, the mansion is naturally under your arrangement. How are your wounds? Why did His Majesty make you a princess? What happened these past few months? Why did the court hear nothing?" I put on a touched expression, as if I really had been jealous over what had happened. I sat down and slowly told Xiao Mingsha everything. When I spoke of saving the Empress Dowager and being named a princess, doubt flashed in my mother-in-law's eyes. "After what happened with your family, His Majesty still agreed to make you a princess." The smile slowly faded from my face. I stared straight at her. "These are baseless rumors. How dare you say such things? Is mother questioning His Majesty's decision?" My mother-in-law smiled awkwardly and fell silent. Xiao Mingsha coaxed me for a long time, but I pretended not to understand and refused to give in. It was not until he gritted his teeth and gave me 3 of his private properties that I smiled and said, "Looking after someone is no trouble. Husband, you're being too formal." I spoke as I took the land deeds. Xiao Mingsha could no longer keep up the act and left with an excuse. I narrowed my eyes and called for secret guards to watch the eastern courtyard. Early the next morning, the guards reported. Sure enough, in the middle of the night, Xiao Mingsha had dismissed the servants and gone to the eastern courtyard, comforting Xie Lingwen softly. I sneered. It was exactly as the Black Bullet comments had said. I had not slept the night before, staring at the comments, trying to find my future cause of death, but none of them got to the point. Instead, they only babbled about the sweet moments between Xiao Mingsha and Xie Lingwen. They said that back then, to marry me, Xiao Mingsha had no choice but to send Xie Lingwen away. He had planned to keep her in a villa, but though Xie Lingwen was a maid, she had a fiery temper. She had declared again and again, "If we cannot be together forever, it is better to part ways." She had left with silver, resolute, and become the unobtainable white moonlight in Xiao Mingsha's heart. A year ago, Xiao Mingsha had run into Xie Lingwen by chance. She was selling hairpins on the street, her smile bright and gentle, just like before. Xiao Mingsha's dead heart had started beating again at once. They had begun a chase. All those days he had claimed to be drinking with colleagues. He had been meeting Xie Lingwen in a private residence, and on the day I was injured during the autumn hunt, Xiao Mingsha had held my hand and cried in front of the Empress Dowager, "Jinjiao, what would I do if something happened to you?" Even the Empress Dowager had teared up. But that same night, he had sent someone to comfort Xie Lingwen in her villa and deliver miscarriage prevention medicine, so she would not be alarmed. This had happened more than once. I was so angry I barely slept all night, thinking over and over how to send this pair of star-crossed lovers to the underworld. I had no proof of their affair, nor could I prove the child in Xie Lingwen's belly was Xiao Mingsha's. With that in mind, I sent someone to my mother-in-law's ancestral home, the Xie family in Jiangnan. Then I dressed neatly and went to the palace. News of what had happened the day before had spread faster than I imagined. When I entered the palace early in the morning, the Empress Dowager was furious. She took my hand worriedly. How dare he, a so-called cousin, dares to ride roughshod over you? I really have given this Yong'an Marquis mansion too much face. I did not reveal the true relationship between Xie Lingwen and Xiao Mingsha. After all, I had no proof yet. And speaking would only worry the Empress Dowager for nothing. Though I had the Empress Dowager's backing, the Yong'an Marquis mansion was still a noble family. His Majesty could not move them easily. Even if Xiao Mingsha wanted to take a concubine, I could not say much. I comforted the Empress Dowager and smiled. I am a princess now. Who would dare to treat me badly? Don't worry. Besides, you gave me so many guards yesterday. Xie Lingwen is behaving herself now. The Empress Dowager sighed and patted my hand. At the palace banquet in a few days, His Majesty will announce your title publicly. The capital is already whispering about it. No one will dare to slight you. With that, I can rest easy. My eyes stung. I leaned against her. The Empress Dowager truly loved me. She specially summoned my mother-in-law to the palace. At noon, while the Empress Dowager took her rest, my mother-in-law waited outside sweating for an hour, nearly collapsing. Only when she was unsteady on her feet was she called in and given a sharp dressing down. By the time she returned home, she was in tears. I did not even glance at her. Ha ha ha, the old lady's gonna explode. Who gets this? The scumbag and the mistress are both scared of the princess's status, so they don't dare act. She can only sulk. My hand holding my tea paused. I raised an eyebrow, scared of my status. That wouldn't do. The next day, I brought things to the eastern courtyard and had them thrown on the ground. Xie Lingwen froze when she saw me, then forced down the hatred in her eyes and bowed reluctantly. What is this, sister-in-law? I smiled. I brought you some things. I have more than I can use. I lost my temper a few days ago, but that's just how I am. Since you're staying in the mansion to have your baby, don't ask for too much. Stay out of my way, and I won't touch you. I glanced at her contemptuously. After all, you're a widow. Step outside this gate, and you won't get anywhere. Xie Lingwen was nearly driven to tears by my arrogance. She could not bear it. She stood up straight and said coldly, "Sister-in-law treats me like this. Are you not afraid the Marquis will blame you when he returns? I survived before. I can survive if I leave this mansion. You have no right to judge me." Just then, Xiao Mingsha returned. When he saw the scene, he panicked and immediately stepped in front of Xie Lingwen, coaxing her gently. "What's wrong now?" Xie Lingwen's eyes turned red, but she spoke stubbornly. "It's your good wife. Cousin, if you don't want me here, just send me away. No need to humiliate me like this." Xiao Mingsha rubbed his brow and looked at me disapprovingly. I said, "Madam Wu, the Minister of Personnel, invited me for tea tomorrow. Would you pick me up if you're free, husband?" Master Wu was in charge of the Ministry of Personnel, a connection Xiao Mingsha had long wanted but failed to make. Xiao Mingsha wavered, the words on his tongue died. He turned to Xie Lingwen and said, "This mansion is under Jinzhao's rule. You should respect her." Xie Lingwen could not hold back any longer. Tears fell to the ground. Pity flashed quickly in Xiao Mingsha's eyes, but he still knew which was more important, having achieved my goal. I did not wait for Xiao Mingsha to signal Xie Lingwen. I called to him softly, "It's getting late. Let's not disturb cousin's rest. Come." Xiao Mingsha gritted his teeth and nodded. After that day, I found excuses to trouble Xie Lingwen every day. Small things, nothing that could be held against me. Xie Lingwen suffered in silence, unable to speak up. She complained to Xiao Mingsha every day, but got nowhere. After all, Xiao Mingsha was getting along well with Minister Wu. He was busy with his career and had no time for Xie Lingwen. He could only comfort her again and again. The bullet comments said Xie Lingwen, seeing Xiao Mingsha was unreliable, turned to the old lady. Sure enough, the next day, my mother-in-law came to me and said she wanted to go to the temple to pray in a few days. "Lingwen's baby is fine now. I've told her we'll go to the temple to pray. You'll come with us. There's misunderstanding between you. Your family, you should sort it out soon. I did not respond. I just came back from praying with the Empress Dowager. I don't wish to go again. My mother-in-law flew into a rage and glared at me fiercely. You will do as I say. I stared back at her, realizing her tone was too harsh. She softened her voice. She is my maternal relative. You must show some respect. You've just been made a princess. If you're too stubborn, it will harm your reputation. Only then did I reluctantly agree. As you wish. Mother, if she hadn't pushed, I might not have been sure, but from her behavior, I knew something was wrong at the temple. I didn't even need to investigate, the bullet comments spilled everything. Why do I feel the original wife is acting strange? Does she know something? Same here. Is she testing the mother-in-law? The scumbag and the maid are just evil. Now that the original wife won't fall for their tricks, they're planning to frame her. The princess is useless to the scumbag now. She even overshadows him. Of course they want her dead. Framing her is cheap and dirty. I can't watch this. If these two leads win, it's just plot armor. I returned to my room calmly, my mind racing. Perhaps this wasn't just their chance, it was mine, too. On the day of the prayer, Xie Lingwen was much quieter. She bowed obediently as soon as she saw me and lowered her head. Sister-in-law, I nodded faintly. My mother-in-law got into the palanquin early. She seemed normal along the way. We reached the royal temple, Qianfu Temple. All royal rituals were held here. And ladies from the capital's mansions favored it. The choice seemed perfectly innocent. I pretended to nap along the way, but I was absorbing every comment. Xie Lingwen smiled slightly, and her maid helped her down carefully. She said softly, I want to pray for my baby's safety. I'll go in first. The old lady said you don't believe in gods and Buddhas. You may walk around here while I'm gone. My mother-in-law agreed gently and told her to be careful. I had no interest in their act and turned away. A young monk walked over carrying items, stumbled, and spilled tea on my clothes. Nanny Zhao behind me snapped angrily, What sort of monk are you? Daring to offend a noble lady. The young monk's eyes turned red with fear. I sighed, It's fine, it's nothing serious, young master. Please show me to a guest chamber. We followed him, turning several corners, until we reached a remote small gate. The young monk pointed inside, flinched, and ran off. The courtyard was extremely secluded, and the sound of opera singing came from within. Even Nanny Zhao sensed something was wrong and whispered in panic, Princess, this place is suspicious. We should leave at once. But when we turned around, the gate behind us had already closed. The bullet comments screamed, No. Inside is the Prince of Wu, who lost the power struggle years ago. His Majesty's own full brother. The Emperor both loves and hates him. Their mother died young. The Emperor was lucky enough to be adopted by the Empress Dowager, but the Prince of Wu suffered terribly under a low-ranking concubine. He went mad after losing the struggle and sings opera all day. Most importantly, Xie Lingwen and the old lady only know there's a madman inside. They don't know it's the Prince of Wu. They're stupid and evil. If anything happens to the original wife, their whole family is doomed. When the abbot arrives and finds the original wife here, he'll be horrified and report to His Majesty at once. No one can save her then, I sneered. So that was their plan. I took out an imperial flute. When the Empress Dowager gave it to me, she said it could summon her 10 hidden guards at any time. Not many, but enough. I sent them to invite the famous abbot. Xie Lingwen and my foolish mother-in-law had handed me a perfect chance. It would be a waste not to use it. Half an hour later, according to the bullet comments, my mother-in-law suddenly panicked at the temple. She shouted that I was missing and called for everyone to help search. She said I was a princess, and if I vanished in their temple, all the monks would die. The monks turned red with anger but could say nothing, so they joined the search. They searched the entire temple and found nothing. Finally, a respected monk paled and stammered, Could she be in the West Wing? The other monks only knew that place was forbidden, not who was inside. My mother-in-law thought my supposed tryst with the mad monk was about to be exposed. Her eyes lit up, and she insisted they take her to find her daughter-in-law. This drew quite a crowd of visiting ladies, who followed along, and as the group approached, Xie Lingwen walked right at the front. As soon as she entered the west courtyard, she called out cheerfully, "Sister-in-law, where are you?" My mother-in-law joined in. "Oh dear." I said Zhao Jinzhao was acting strange, insisting on coming to the temple, and now she's lost. But as they called and stepped inside, a cold flash stopped them at the door. "Who dares intrude?" Golden-armored guards directly under the emperor pointed their blades at my mother-in-law's throat. She turned pale with fear and could not speak. At that moment, I walked out from the outer courtyard with the abbot and looked at her in confusion. "Mother, what are you doing here?" The sword still rested at her neck. She stared at me as if she'd seen a ghost. "How are you here?" I looked at her with a faint smile and said quietly, "I should be asking you that. I told you I was going to admire flowers in the back mountain. Why are you so sure I'm here, and why did you bring so many people?" My mother-in-law spoke stubbornly. Believing no one else could hear, she forced out, "I thought I saw you come this way." I made a sound of understanding, then turned to the Golden Guard commander. "I told you earlier, the monk led us here for no reason. The ones behind this plot would surely come soon. These two know this place far too well, and tried to lead a crowd to intrude on a noble's residence. Their hearts are wicked. Even if she is my mother-in-law, my husband and I will not shield them. Please report everything truthfully to His Majesty." At the word His Majesty, my mother-in-law seemed to snap back to her senses and shouted, "What does this have to do with His Majesty? I only came to find Zhao Jinzhao." But the Golden Guards paid her no mind. He narrowed his eyes and looked coldly at my mother-in-law and Xie Lingwen. "Take all three away." I stood calm and composed, extending my hand. Xie Lingwen and my mother-in-law were far less steady. Long before they arrived, I'd had the hidden guards open the lock and summoned the abbot. The Golden Guards were top experts. They must have spotted me and my maid the moment we arrived. If I'd left right away, His Majesty would have grown suspicious. Better to turn their plot against them and drag them both down. Most importantly, I had to make sure His Majesty knew I was innocent. I went to the prison with them, held separately. On the third day of confinement, Xiao Mingxia appeared. His eyes were red, his hair messy. Anyone tangled in this matter would lose their dignity. "What did you do? Why are Lingwen and my mother locked up? I can't even see them." I looked at him mockingly. "If you can't see them, shouldn't you ask what they did to get me dragged into this?" Xiao Mingxia choked. He probably knew the truth, but he just needed someone to vent on. I ignored him and leaned against the wall to rest. "Jinzhao, I didn't mean that. I just want to know what really happened so I can fix this. I haven't left the Marquis mansion these days. His Majesty has men investigating it non-stop. I only got to see you today. Even the maids and guards who went with you are locked up."
"Please see the truth." I turned cold at his shameless excuses. Conspiring with the old lady to forge a maid's identity, tainting the Marquis mansion's bloodline, and plotting to frame a reigning princess at a royal temple. Since when has a loyal minister behaved like this? "Oh, and these, I collected them from the villa." I presented a stack of letters. The bullet comments had given me the idea. "He's already guilty. What difference does a little more make? Might as well mix truth with lies." Hehe, I'm not stirring up trouble though. Back then, I'd secretly found a skilled forger to copy his handwriting and plant fake love letters. Mixed in were complaints that His Majesty refused to give him a post, that his talent was wasted. There were also curses that the Empress Dowager favored me and always reprimanded him. All of it was treasonous. His Majesty read the letters, his face darkening. Finally, I bowed deeply. "Your Majesty, my Zhao family is loyal through and through, even if I am the only one left. I cannot stay with such a disloyal and unrighteous man. I beg your Majesty, grant me a divorce from my husband." Xiao Mingxia turned pale and roared, "Be quiet. How can a woman divorce her husband? There is no such precedent in this dynasty. Unexpectedly, the emperor spoke next, his voice deep and firm. There is now, I hereby decree, Princess Changping is granted a divorce. The Marquis of Yong'an has disrespected the imperial family, allowed his outer mistress to frame a princess, and spoken recklessly against the throne. His title is stripped, and he is exiled to Lingnan, never to return. Not only that, His Majesty promoted me to princess and cleared my father's name, even as he was exiled. Xiao Mingxia never understood why keeping Chunju had led to such a fate. But before their family left, I went to see him out of kindness. My mother-in-law was sallow and thin, stripped of her former wealth. Xie Lingwen's belly was flat. I'd heard she'd lost the baby in prison. Even now, when Xiao Mingxia saw me, he instinctively shielded Xie Lingwen. He stared at me warily. You've already ruined us. What more do you want? I sneered. I ruined you. If I had let Xie Lingwen move into my courtyard, how would you have treated me? You married me for fame and status, never telling me you loved another. When Xie Lingwen entered the mansion, you dared not tell me the father of her child was you. Xiao Mingxia, you are a coward your whole life. You deserve to be exiled, never knowing it was all your mother and your beloved who brought this on you. Xiao Mingxia snapped his head toward the two women. They were not fools. In prison these days, they'd figured it out. Whoever was locked in that temple was no ordinary mad monk. But I bet they dared not tell Xiao Mingxia. The exile road was long, without a man. Neither of them would survive to Lingnan. At my words, they trembled violently and shouted desperately, "It's all you. This has nothing to do with us. If you hadn't complained to His Majesty, none of this would have happened." But Xiao Mingxia stared straight at them, not turning away. He clearly did not believe them. I watched the hope in his eyes fade into disappointment and hatred. I closed the carriage curtain and smiled faintly. I've said my piece. We were husband and wife once. I couldn't let you die in ignorance. With that, I left with my people. I received the title of princess and a fiefdom. After years of secret work, I also cleared my father's name. His Majesty punished the general who had lied back then. My wishes fulfilled, I chose not to go to my fief. I went to the palace to beg His Majesty to take back the reward. The emperor was surprised. Why? The Empress Dowager has shown me great kindness. I only wish to serve by her side. His gaze softened. After a long thought, that can be arranged. Your fief is in Chongju. There is a small temple there. If you wish, you may renovate it. The Empress Dowager has not left the palace in years, and I am too busy with state affairs to care for her properly. Why not let her go there to cultivate peacefully? Princess Changping, you may stay with her. I looked up in delight and thanked him repeatedly. Later, the Empress Dowager and I chose an auspicious day and set off. Laughing and talking all the way, she seemed years younger overnight. I settled in Chongju, spending my days accompanying the Empress Dowager to admire flowers and pray. She often said these few years were enough for a lifetime, and of course, I kept several male companions, all handsome, obedient, and sensible. Bullet comments drifted by occasionally. This is the side story I want to see. By the way, can I have one with 8-pack abs? The princess is so beautiful and generous. I want one too. Hehe, perfect ending. I love it. The scumbag's fate is so miserable I want to laugh. After he found out the truth, he beat Xie Lingwen every day and stopped respecting his mother. They're tearing each other apart. Upstairs, it gets worse. The scumbag kept hitting her. Xie Lingwen has a temper. She killed him while he was drunk. His mother caught her, and they killed each other. I read them with great amusement, until Nanny Zhao called me back to my senses. Princess, the Empress Dowager is calling you for a spring outing. Coming. Don't forget the Osmanthus cakes, she loves them most.